So going to go ahead and kick off this masterclass. Thank you all for joining. This month, we're going to be focusing on Gravity Legal, and we have brought in Emery from the Gravity Legal team to co-host this with us. Fred is here and listening and answering questions, but he's given over that position to Emery to talk to us about Gravity Legal today, which is fantastic. Something that we've been working on for, I think, well over a year and a half now. Have been working on and developing, and it's been fantastic working with Emery and his team. So we figured, well, in addition, since we talked about trust accounting last month, let's kind of continue that theme and talk about Gravity Legal and trust requests within LeanLaw. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that screen share from you, Emery. And we will get that started with just the quick PowerPoint slides here to cover the agenda for the day. Emery, do you see that?
Yep, I've got it.
Fantastic. Okay. So like I said, thank you everyone for joining. This is the February product masterclass with LeanLaw, where this month we're focusing on Gravity Legal. So the three main areas of focus for today are going to be automating the trust request process within LeanLaw, thanks to Gravity Legal, improving existing workflows, both within LeanLaw and outside of LeanLaw, and then Gravity Legal outside of LeanLaw, all of the cool things and value that Gravity Legal can bring to a law firm that aren't necessarily done within LeanLaw. And there is a lot of cool stuff there. So that is the focus for today. I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen over to this. Should see that now. Awesome. So we'll start with the basic here. What is Gravity Legal? What does it look like in LeanLaw? Why did we add it? All fantastic questions, rhetorical. The first is to answer directly, Gravity Legal allows users or firms within LeanLaw to request trust funds directly. So traditionally, or before the integration, if you were using LeanLaw and QuickBooks together, technically you could do a trust request, but it was kind of a pain. You had to go into QuickBooks, manually send an invoice, collect that, and then shuffle a bunch of things around once that actually got paid. Because if you track it as an invoice, that goes into income. It's not technically income because it's a trust deposit. It was a whole thing. And we had a lot of firms coming to us and saying, well, we'd like to be able to make trust requests because when we're doing initial engagements, when we're using trust regularly and need to get funds from people, it'd be nice to have something to send in addition to a memo saying, hey, please pay us. Right? Having that payment link adds a lot of value. So we built this out with Gravity Legal to make that possible. So that's the context of why. Now, what does it actually look like? Well, for all you trust accounting fans out there, you will be very familiar with the trust accounting process in LeanLaw, where we've got our deposit and our payment. And the trust funds, actually, the request funds option looks very similar to the deposit funds workflow. This is recording deposits in trust account. Great, easy, pretty simple, looks like a time entry. But if we click request funds, it's very, very similar, except now we've added a bunch of options for things like your email address, the subject, the message, in addition to the regular things that you would see with that trust deposit, right? Because that's essentially what we're doing. We're sending an email to the client saying, hey, we're requesting this amount from you, and then giving them the subject and the message, obviously, that you would include on any email, right? Don't want to send an email without a subject line. That's super confusing. And that email is sent directly to the client. I don't think I mentioned that yet. Similar to sending out invoices from within LeanLaw, sending a trust request, you don't have to go to your email inbox and write something up. Do that all from within LeanLaw, right? Saving time and not having to jump between multiple apps or multiple pages when you're just trying to get one simple thing done. So when you do that, when you go through the trust request process, just like a deposit that's automatically recorded in QuickBooks appropriately, right? You'll see an increase in your liability account, increase in the Ielts account. But in addition to that, when you have that trust request and that trust request is fulfilled or paid, Gravity actually sends that money to the bank account, right? So you've got the accounting part, the actual banking part, which is super exciting. Again, don't have to get up, go to the bank or log into the bank and track that. All from within LeanLaw when they fulfill that trust request, which saves not only the front end, the front of the house staff, the billing staff, the secretaries that are going through and doing that invoicing or setting up your clients and matters and sending out those requests, but also kind of the back of the house staff, your accounting staff that's tracking payments and going through the actual accounting of that. They now don't have to go through and clean up that whole mess that's created if you send a trust request through QuickBooks, right? You don't have to reshuffle things around. So it makes a lot of sense, especially for firms that do a lot of trust accounting, which I'm going to take a guess, a lot of you probably do. Karen's got a question here. How do we handle the merchant account fees? I'm going to let Emery answer that a little bit later. So we will come back to you on that one, Karen. Cool. So we've got a button here, request trust funds. You're looking at it in the trust account tab, or if you go to the quick create, you've also got the trust request option. Great. How do we use it? Where do we use it? Well, if we're looking at trust accounting all day, pretty straightforward here, but there's also a lot of other places and workflows that it makes sense to implement this. So the first I want to take a look at is actually the trust report. Now, this is something we covered last month and actually the month before when we were looking at reports. But there's a very cool column in here. If I get this pulled up, you'll notice on the far right-hand side, there's a column called trust to WIP ratio right over here. And that gives us the percentage of our ongoing WIP or work in progress, time entries, expenses, your fees, that's covered by what's available in the trust account, right? We've got, say, $1,000 worth of WIP. Well, we've got $5,000 worth of trust, so we are 100% covered. If we take a look at the top example here with Coastal Motors, we've got a trust balance of a little over 15,000, but then the WIP is way over that at 114,000, so we're only 13% covered. Well, in this situation, we probably want to get a bit more money from Coastal Motors, which is a great time to then click that quick create up top and jump into trust request to open up that trust request to immediately know, all right, Coastal Motors, we need to request an additional $100,000 for them. To make that real quick, if you sort the column here, because remember, all of the columns within LeanLaw are sortable. If we click that, we now get the handful of firms here that have less than 100% balances, even some negatives here, from some funky accounting that we've been playing with. But these three firms here, Coastal Motors, Class Action with Seatbelts, and Natalie Mitchell, are the three clients that we would want to reach out to and send those trust requests, right? Makes that super actionable. So that's the first report. The second report, not actually a report, actually is during the draft invoicing process. So we'll jump over there and take a look at drafts. There we go. Now, when we're looking at a draft invoice, we see the memo field here that's populated by LeanLaw when there's trust, right? So normally it's going to show if you have Evergreen, what that Evergreen balance should be. If they've got a trust balance, what that would be, and any money moving out of that that would go towards paying that. Well, what if we realize that the trust balance is actually lower than the Evergreen amount? While we're doing that draft invoice review, if we check into the memo field and we notice, oh, hey, there's a $5,000 minimum required on this, and we are well below that, and we're charging an additional amount, probably a great time to send that trust request. So again, make our changes here to the draft invoice, close out, and then select that trust request option. Don't have to go anywhere else. Just in the middle of our review process, we're able to send that off. That way, by the time we actually submit that invoice and are looking for payment, we've already got it available in the trust account. Jennifer's got a question. What about refunding trust amounts? Again, that's another question for Emery. That's something we'll cover a little bit later. But
I'm writing these down, so we'll definitely make sure to do that.
We will absolutely answer that once we get there. Thank you for asking that question, Jennifer. Okay, and the last that I wanted to talk about is actually during the client and matter creation process. Now, I'd mentioned this a little bit briefly, but as we're going through the process of setting up a new client or perhaps setting up a new matter for a client, depending on how the firm operates, excellent time to, in addition to sending that engagement letter or any kind of materials you would normally send, you send off a trust request. You know, maybe that's part of the firm's policy that as part of agreeing to take on a case for a client, they need to put a certain amount into the trust account. That way, if you're just doing an initial engagement, you know, an hour-long meeting, you're covered. But if it grows past that, they're already familiar with the firm's practice of largely operating out of the trust account. So say we've just created this matter for A1 fencing, civil matter. While we're sitting in here, adding information for the conflict check, for internal, setting up our billing rates. Again, we just click that quick create option up top. And once we're done here, adding all the details for the matter, we click trust request and we're off. We're done. We've already sent them a request for the $1,000 minimum agreement, and we can start tracking work and are more confident that we'll actually be paid for that time or the fee that we have for that initial engagement. Karen with another question, is there any plan to make that trust request automated as part of the billing process? Not to my knowledge. Actually, I don't even know if that's on the engineering board at all. That is a fantastic idea. I'm actually just going to send a screenshot of that off to our product manager, Nick, after the meeting, and I'll bring that up with him, Karen. That's a fantastic suggestion. Thank you. All right. Emery, that's about all I wanted to talk about on the LeanLaw side, because a lot of the magic here actually happens within Gravity itself.
Cool. Perfect. Well, thanks a lot, Chase. Thank you all for having me as a guest today. I'm excited to be here. It's been really fun to get to know the LeanLaw team over the last 2 years or so. Really great team and a really powerful product. So my background is I'm not a lawyer. I come from
Surprise.
I come from like Chase. But I come from the client perspective. So I managed outside counsel relationships for several years and paid millions of dollars in legal fees and over the kind of the normal course of business, and started to get very frustrated with the way lawyers and law firms typically accepted payments and that whole billing process compared to the best practices for e-commerce and online payments, things, experiences that you get, say on Amazon or your favorite ride sharing app. So we really founded Gravity Legal from that client perspective, trying to bring those e-commerce and online best practices to the legal community with the rules of professional conduct in mind. And as we dug deeper, and I'm sure most people are aware of these statistics on the call, but average collection rates hover around about 80%. So $1 million firm is leaving $200,000 on the table every year. That's work that's already been done, and of course that would be an increase in revenue, but revenue with very little offsetting cost. So most of that just drops to the bottom line if that can be optimized. So we really set out to tackle some of these big financial challenges. And the great thing about being able to partner with LeanLaw is they do have this really powerful reporting, like the trust to WIP ratio. You can see, I'm when do I stop being just a lawyer and become a lawyer and the banker for my clients? And so being able to pair that, kind of easy trust request process with the with that reporting is really exciting for us and really in line with our mission. I love the suggestion from Karen to, automate that process. It scares me a little bit from a technical perspective, but I think, we do want to find a way to get there together with LeanLaw. So
it's pretty crazy. The story, like your origin story into that you're in, is super similar to Gary and the reason LeanLaw exists, with Gary being frustrated at the offerings in the legal space for timekeeping and invoicing and saying, well, I'm just going to do my own thing. Yep. And 6 years later, here we are, and with partnering with a company that has a similar perspective on just frustration with the experience and saying, well, maybe I can do this a little bit better. It definitely changed.
Chase, you went mute all of a sudden.
Uh-oh.
The changes is what we heard.
Yeah, the changes. It's a lot more passionate, right? The people and the team you get to work with, but also the users and the customers you meet are, it's a lot more. I mean, I would even say fun to be part of a process in a company where we're working on something that's, we're frustrated, and so we're trying to find a better solution. It's not just I think I can get rich quick doing this. It's a legitimate, there's a legitimate need for it. So
yeah, definitely. Well, my job today is to talk about all the other ways to accept payments through the LeanLaw, Gravity Legal kind of QuickBooks system, other than what Chase showed you with the trust requests. And I want to start out in kind of a little bit of a weird place. But the reason I want to start out here, and I'm going to start out with our stored payment method feature. Because as I mentioned, we're really focused on helping firms improve that collection rate. And the evergreen retainer model, we've seen firms, and I'm sure many of the folks on this call have experienced it, make a really big positive impact on collection rates. But trust accounting is a headache. It can sometimes be hard, especially in consumer facing practice areas, to get a client to pay, a $5,000 retainer up front. So one method, this is not a new method, but we are seeing more and more firms implement it, especially recently, is we call it the stored payment method model. But basically the firm puts in their engagement agreement that they're going to keep a credit, debit card or bank account on file securely. And then they're going to send out their invoices, by the 3rd of the month. And if they don't hear within 5 days, then we're going to assume that you have reviewed, you're okay with the amount, and we're going to bill the payment method on file. So it operates very similarly to that sort of evergreen retainer model, but doesn't involve trust accounting and has some other kind of advantages as well. So it may not be right for everyone. Of course, having the money solidly in your trust account is better. Yep. But this also works. We've seen it implemented very successfully. So I'm going to start out demoing that kind of stored payment method process in that context. This can be a really good way to also improve collection rates without necessarily having to continually replenish the trust balance. So
yeah,
I will share my screen here.
Oh, that's a familiar screen.
Perfect. I got it right. So how would you implement that specifically in LeanLaw, Gravity Legal, QuickBooks? Well, you come to the Gravity Legal, you log into Gravity Legal, and let's say it's time to send out the engagement agreement to the client. You can click new stored payment method here. I'll use Amy's Bird Sanctuary, and now I have a link that I can send, that I can add to my engagement agreement. I can also add this button to an email that goes out to the client. And what they see when they click on that is not a charge, but the ability to pay, to store a credit, debit card, or bank account with the firm. And the firm never sees the full card number. It never sees the full bank account number. We use kind of an industry standard token process to recharge that payment method as well. So you don't have to worry about storing full card numbers or bank account numbers and that sensitive information. So
Emery, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the payment option through QuickBooks also offer something similar to this?
Potentially. I don't know for sure if they can do the kind of the link with the stored payment method. But one of the advantages to doing it through Gravity Legal, assuming they can do it, is you can link as many bank accounts as you want, and you can classify them as either trust or operating accounts. So this is probably a natural time to talk about Karen's first question, which was how are fees handled. All of the fees on it associated with any trust transactions are taken out of the operating account at the end of the month with those operating account transactions. So if you if you send a $1,000 trust request, you're going to get $1,000 into the operating account or into the trust account, and that will not be impacted.
Got a good answer, Emery, from Karen. Rare is the time that we get a positive feedback from our accounting accounting users. Normally they're heckling Fred and I about not knowing something.
Yeah, that's how fees are managed there. So we also have invested a lot in the ACH platform. A lot of ACH options have limits that don't really support law firms in the way that they bill those larger transactions. So we have firms with $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 limits on a per transaction basis.
Within ACH?
So
okay.
It's highly utilized on the platform, and every month we see about 25 to 30% of the payment volume comes through via ACH, and we're proud of that because it's taking would-be credit or debit card transactions and moving them to ACH and reducing the overall cost of processing transactions. So certainly there are some advantages to credit and debit cards, but ACH being much less expensive and a good way to manage fees there.
So to Karen's question of what's the ACH rate?
It's 0.35% or $3.50 for every $1,000 processed.
Nice. All right, what do we got next in Gravity?
Perfect. So I'll mention too that, I got logged out here. Security. You can set up the Gravity Legal QuickBooks integration such that all payments made on those stored payment method transactions show up in QuickBooks as payments. So if I go to customers and I look at Amy's, I ran a stored payment method transaction against that account yesterday. And you can see this $1,000 payment came in through that stored payment method transaction. So in Gravity Legal, in the integration settings, you can map transactions and how they show up in QuickBooks. So here in the QuickBooks chart of accounts, I've created an account called Gravity Legal Transactions, and all of my operating transactions are showing up as payments in that account. Trust transactions show up as deposits. I would highly recommend using, though, if you are using LeanLaw, to use that trust request process, because the reporting is much better, because it will automatically drop that deposit into the client's sub-liability account. In this case, this is just the top level, and so you'd have to come in and manually drag it down. So I would highly encourage either turning this off, or just being very cognizant of, if you're accepting payments outside of LeanLaw, you will have to kind of pull those down into the particular client account.
And I believe in both situations, both on the LeanLaw side and the Gravity side, that's the kind of thing that's set up once and then you're done, right?
Yep.
You don't have to go back in and mess with it unless you, like Emery was saying, unless you're sending those directly to the top level or the parent level. You set that up once and you're done, right? Just as easy and streamlined as possible.
Yep. I won't go through the whole process for all of these other options, but you can accept one-time payments through this payment links feature. This is a one-time payment link. Those payments will also show up in QuickBooks if you have the account mapping turned on, and they will be associated with the QuickBooks, that QuickBooks customer. Standing links, this is basically a payment page option where you can create payment pages that a lot of firms will put these on their websites or put them into sort of onboarding workflows, where the client can come here. They can be of a specified amount, or they can be open, like this one is, where the client can just come here and enter their invoice number. These, because they're not tied to a specific client prior to the transaction, they will still show up in QuickBooks. But they'll show up as an unknown client and only show up as that QuickBooks, associated with that QuickBooks client, if they associate this payment with that client after the fact. So just a note on those payment pages. And then we already went through stored payment methods, but subscriptions or payment plans. This basically allows you to run automated recurring billing. If you have say a subscription legal services offering that would just be ongoing, or you want to put clients on a payment plan that would stop after a certain number of payments have been reached or a certain dollar amount has been reached. So a lot of different kind of frequencies and ways to set that up. And then each time you set it up, it generates a link with the details of the transaction. And it looks much like the one-time payment link, except for the details associated with that payment plan. And again, all those payments show up in QuickBooks as well if you have the account mapping set up.
So actually, on exactly on that, Karen asks, are the payments integrating into LeanLaw and then sent into QuickBooks or into QuickBooks?
They're sent directly into QuickBooks.
Right. And I think to kind of answer that, the reason you'll see that in LeanLaw is because LeanLaw is syncing that information from QuickBooks. It's the reason that trust accounting or making a payment in QuickBooks on a LeanLaw invoice will show back up in LeanLaw. It's because LeanLaw is reading those QuickBooks accounts, right? So even though we might be making payments through this gravity model and not through LeanLaw, so long as it's going towards accounts or invoices that LeanLaw pays attention to, you'll see that synced back into LeanLaw. So no need to enter that twice in LeanLaw as a separate payment or as a trust deposit, since QuickBooks is not QuickBooks, sorry, Gravity is writing that directly to QuickBooks and then LeanLaw is picking it up. So, and Karen, full of questions today. She also asked, can you limit clients to only choose ACH?
Yes, yeah, you can. So you can still have credit and debit card on, turned on, but just take them off by default. So if you want to offer it to a specific client in a specific situation, you could still do that. But if you want your default to be bank transfer only, you can set it up that way.
So just to clarify that, you can at the firm level say we do or we don't accept a certain payment, but then also on a per client basis, you can set that?
Unfortunately, not at a per client basis, but on a per transaction basis. So let's say you had it turned off and you sent a trust request. We'll look at this as an outstanding trust request.
Mm-hmm.
You could click in here in Gravity Legal and say, okay, I want to update these payment methods. In this case, they're all on, but I could also, I could turn them off. And then when I clicked on that link, I would not have the ability to pay through these methods. And it works in reverse as well.
Got it. Got another question from Jennifer here. If we turn off a certain payment, does it also change the method of QuickBooks on QuickBooks invoices? That's an excellent question.
No. It will not. And I'm going to have to actually go to QuickBooks to see what it says. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think there is a specific, let's see if we click into this.
Because I know with LeanLaw, you can opt to not include certain payment methods by default if an invoice is paid through the Intuit Merchant Services.
Yeah.
And I think, and Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she's asking if it also changes the method available on the QuickBooks invoice. Well, let's see.
Got it. No, it won't. So
okay. Yeah,
if you have the Intuit Merchant Services turned on and you have Gravity turned on, we wouldn't recommend that. I think one or the other is the way to go, because it can be very confusing to clients. Do I click on this link or that link? How does that work?
For all of the time savings we've added here or given, made available, I think we completely undo that by giving clients multiple options to pay with multiple services. Like, look at all this time we're saving by streamlining the process, but also you have 4 buttons to pay this invoice with, so pick your favorite. Yeah, that seems like a recipe for a lot of heartache there.
I can cover Jennifer's question as well about refunds. So refunds, they do have to be run through Gravity Legal. So when that transaction comes through, you have the ability to void or refund. And they do have to be marked. They do have to be manually applied in QuickBooks and in LeanLaw. So, or one or the other, so that their integration picks it up. We haven't automated the process of refunds.
And Jennifer asked, I don't know if it's the same question or a different question in the Q&A section, if there's a way to refund unused trust amounts. And if that's separate from what Emery just answered, if you're looking to disperse funds at the end of a case back to the client, I did answer that with an article and a link in the QA section, but that's actually handled in QuickBooks. So if your question is unused, not unused funds, instead of undoing or refunding a trust payment, that's the answer to your question.
And to answer that in terms of how the money actually moves. So you can refund a trust transaction, but the amount has to be associated with a particular payment. So if you accepted that money, say by into the trust account by check, you wouldn't be able to refund that amount through Gravity Legal. It is something we're working on, to be able to send ACH transactions outbound. It's a little bit more high risk than inbound transactions, just because if you get it wrong, it can be hard to kind of pull those back. So, but you can refund. It just has to be associated with a transaction.
So how would a firm get started or get set up with Gravity? What's that process like? Do they just message LeanLaw about it?
Yeah, you can message LeanLaw. I'll also, there's a LeanLaw specific sign up link.
Yep.
It's kind of embarrassing, but I spilled coffee on my keyboard this morning. I don't know if anybody's ever done that, but everything's really sticking.
Good reason to not put sugar in your coffee.
Yeah. So that's the LeanLaw specific Gravity Legal sign up link. You can also, this is my personal meeting link. So if you want to talk through some things, kind of in a low pressure situation, definitely feel free to book time on my calendar as well.
If we just wanted to fill your entire day answering LeanLaw clients about trust requests.
Yeah. Yep. I live for this stuff. So
I think we can do that. I think if half the people in this call booked you out next week, you would probably be busy every day.
I will also mention that you can set it up so that payment links are automatically applied to invoices, so that they be dropped on the message on invoice field. So actually,
why would someone want to do that?
So if you wanted to take advantage of some of the legal specific features that Gravity Legal offers, and not use kind of the Intuit merchant services for one and Gravity for the other, you can get a similar kind of experience. And I say similar because basically what it does, what we have the power to do is drop a payment link on the invoice here. So this is the email that went out with this particular invoice. Obviously you can change some of the formatting. This is the QuickBooks default. And I printed the details of the invoice to this email. And so now I can click that to make the payment. It's in the amount of that invoice, and payments are automatically applied to that invoice. So if you don't print the details, the invoice details to the email, then the client would have to, open this up and pay by clicking the the same link there. So I know that's in terms of kind of the aesthetics and everything, it's not where we want to be long term. But that's kind of the current process there for automatically generating those links and automatically applying payments to the invoice.
So make sure you have, if you want to do that, make sure you have that option turned on, so you don't have to reply to client emails with "where's the payment link?"
Yep. So that's another setting in the QuickBooks integration. And by the way, our typical process, because there's a lot of different ways to set up the QuickBooks integration, we'll typically do an onboarding call where we go through all of this, because there's a lot of different ways, like I mentioned, to do it.
Fantastic.
But you can basically create a payment link for each invoice, and then you can either add that to the email manually if you want it to kind of be prominent in the email and you don't want to print the details. And then you can also have it, like I just did, have it automatically added to the message on invoice field there. So
nice.
That's the process there.
Got a question from Jeffrey. I have a client that just applied for Gravity Legal. Fantastic. How do I get added as an accountant to their account, and how do we integrate it into LeanLaw?
Awesome. So that's exciting. So they have to invite you, or you can email our support team, support@gravitylegal.com, and request to be added, and then they will reach out to the firm directly just to get confirmation that that's okay, and then our support team can invite you. But the firm can do that as well. And actually, let me reshare here. If you're looking to kind of walk them through it, they can go to settings, users, either active or invited, it doesn't matter, and then invite new user there.
Great.
They can enter all that information and send a invite there. So,
great.
I feel like there was another question. Oh, how to integrate it into LeanLaw. So there's kind of two steps. One is you need Gravity Legal connected to QuickBooks. So you're going to go to settings, integrations, and this won't be here. You'll click new integration and select QuickBooks, and it will take you to QuickBooks, and you'll have to authorize the transaction there, or the connection. And then for LeanLaw, to get LeanLaw and Gravity connected, you're going to come to firm settings here, and this customer ID is what you're gonna click copy, and then in LeanLaw, I was going to describe it, but then I realized it's open here. So
we've got it.
Yeah,
we have the technology.
I'm going to come to here, and this is my demo account on it. So it's all kind of messed up here, but you would have the ability to paste. There's a field here if it was not connected where you could paste that into to LeanLaw. Click enable. It's going to validate it, and then it'll show you a successful connection.
Nice. So are there any benefits to a firm using LeanLaw currently signing up for Gravity? I mean, what I'm really asking there is, what's the sign up process like? Are there any kind of fees? Are there monthly subscription costs? What are the rates for, I know we talked about ACH earlier, but also cards or other processing fees. How does that compare?
Yep. So it's we don't charge any monthly fees, no setup fees, no termination fees. So if you're interested in just kind of giving it a try and seeing if it works, there's no kind of financial penalty for doing that and either not using it if it doesn't work for you, or turning it off. So we charge 2.95% for cards, no other transaction fees, and then 0.35% for ACH. And I'll mention too that you can automatically charge, depending on your state where you're located, you can automatically charge those credit card fees to the clients as well, and that typically reduces processing fees by about 60 to 80%. So,
and I think Karen had actually asked something similar related to that, how those fees are handled. And like Emery said, you, depending on your state or depending on how the firm operates, you can either have the firm take that cost or the client take that cost. And that's just something you set once and don't have to worry about again.
Yeah, you can either set it once, or we have some firms that don't necessarily want to inform all their clients about it. They want to phase it in over time for new clients and sort of change their engagement agreement over time. So you can set it on a per client basis and phase it in.
Nice.
So,
Jeff's got another question here. If I end up with several clients that use Gravity Legal, will I need a different login for each, or is there an accountant hub option?
I have an unfortunate answer, Jeff.
Uh-oh.
Right now, you will need a separate login. If you use the G Suite or the Google Workspace, you can add a plus sign after the prefix of your email to generate a new kind of email address. But we know that causes a lot of headache and friction. So we're working on building that out, but it's not available right now. So
yes, and I would suggest checking with either Emery directly or the support team over at Gravity Legal about that. I know I've had to set up a couple of those accounts for myself, just for testing purposes, but they do a fantastic job of getting that set up.
I'll put my email
That doesn't
in there
have
too.
That doesn't have a plus in it.
No, it doesn't, but you can email me at this and I will get it to the same email address. So that's what I was kind of talking about. So
exactly like that.
We do have, if you're interested, we did do some research, not legal advice, but research on the ethics rules and opinions, as well as the state laws about passing on credit card fees to clients. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, feel free to do that. And then it's not really as complex, we're finding, but there are some states that have rules and opinions about that stored payment methods model that I mentioned. And we're kind of in the middle of a research project on that. So I don't have that to give today, but if you're interested, you can drop your email on that form, and it should be ready in about 2 weeks. I can send you send that out to you too if you do that. So
I feel like in addition to getting a hat or a t-shirt that says I am not an accountant, we might also need one that says I am not a lawyer. For legal reasons, this is not legal advice.
Yeah. Just trying to get a good sense of how our product interacts with the rules of professional conduct, and making sure that we're pointing folks in the right direction in general. So.
Right. Alicia, popping in a little bit late. We'll forgive you this time, Alicia. Does Gravity only apply to retainers / Ielts, or does it work for payment of monthly invoices as well?
Yep, monthly invoices through that kind of automated adding of links and applying of payments to the invoices, or you can manually charge cards, either stored payment methods or payment plans or one-time payments, and then have those payments apply automatically to that client or customer, they call it, in QuickBooks.
Yep, makes that process super easy. Yeah, we'll get the session posted up. I think it'll be about a week is our normal turnaround on that. Or if you have burning questions and want to get that answered specifically sooner, Emery did post his personal calendar and contact information farther back in the chat. So you can reach out to him and get some specific details there.
Well, and I'll say, I attended the State of LeanLaw, event a few months ago. I would highly recommend, watching. It's exciting to see all those things that are coming down the pipe this year. I know one of them was a big focus on invoicing. So I'm excited to collaborate with you all on that, and hopefully create some great things on the invoicing side as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, the more efficient we can make that process for LeanLaw users, not just the day-to-day making an invoice, but also getting it paid, tracking down payments, the less headache for law firms, their staff, and ultimately clients. Everybody wins there. So the better informed and better the process, the happier everyone is, hopefully. So I think that's about all I've got, Emery, unless there was anything that you wanted to chat about real quick before we wrap up, or if we've got any last minute questions in the chat? I know, Alicia, you probably got a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. I think that was pretty much everything. So I'll definitely hang out if other questions come in, if that's allowed, Chase. But
you're more than welcome to hang out. I mean, just hang out, chit chat. I would suggest getting coffee, but I heard you had an incident with that earlier.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. No more multitasking for me. So.
Multitasking or split attention.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. I mean, it's really an honor for us to be part of the community, and like I said, it's really powerful product to help with that really key problem that we're seeing, with respect to collection rates and doing work, billing for work, but not getting paid for it.
Yeah, kind of a bummer to do work and not get paid for it. That kind of defeats the whole purpose. So I think we're just about done. I'm not seeing any new questions pop up. So We'll go ahead and get wrapped up. We're like 15 minutes early. That's extra recess time for everyone. So like Emery was saying, it's fantastic to have you all here with us. Thank you for joining this month. We will be back next month talking about, what was it? Distributions. That's right. Ironically enough, last year we talked about revenue reports and teased the distributions feature. Well, we're back in March, a year later, talking about the full release of distributions, which actually happened a while ago. But the team has been busy working on some improvements there that we're excited to talk about. So I believe we'll have Fred back to join us for that. And we will talk more about distributing payments, the reporting implications, and how sweet that feature is. So thank you all, and we will catch you next month.
Thanks, everyone.